Ani.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining today. I am Sai Bhavani from MSc first year in St. Paul's 10 Degree and PG College for Women. Department of Physics, in association with Vignan Bharati, welcomes you to the lecture History of Photoelectric Effect on the occasion of completion of 100 years of Nobel Prize reception. In this lecture, Sir Jitendra Singh DRDO scientists explain about the three Nobel Prizes winning experiments with different observations. Photoelectricity effects on the occasion of 100 years of Nobel Prize reception by Albert Einstein. Hallworks experiment with electroscope to confirm photoelectric effect. Philip Lennard's experiment, Einstein Nobel Prize work. Photon theory, prediction on photoelectric effect. Robert Millikan experiment on photoelectric effect. To confirm Einstein prediction. Hand over to my friend Medha.
Thank you, Bhavani. My name is Medha. I am a student from St. Pius in MSc first year in physics. Welcome, sir. I would like to give you all a brief summary of the many accolades of our esteemed guest, Jitendra Singh. He is a scientist who works at DRDO, and he did his integrated MSc in physics from IIT Kanpur and MTech in computational sciences from IISc Bangalore. He was a first ranker in GATE, and he loves solving problems in physics and is a member of H.C. Verma's team, esteemed Sir H.C. Verma's team. And his love of solving problems, Sir's love of solving problems has helped him co-author amazing books with his colleague from IIT, Shraddhesh Chaturvedi. And some of the books that he has authored are IIT JEE Physics, Topic-Wise Complete Solutions, 100 solved problems on dual nature of radiation and matter, 300 solved problems on rotational mechanics, 100 solved problems on units, dimensions, and measurements, 100 solved problems on rectilinear motion, 100 solved problems on the motion in a plane, and IIT JEE papers. If you would like to get in touch with Sir, you can do so through the form or his profiles on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or on his Amazon author. And if anybody has any questions they have thought of during the lecture, please put it in the chat, and if time permits, we may look at them after the lecture. Thank you. Over to you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Medha, Bhavani ji, and Ranjana ma'am. We need to have this session a little interactive. So anyway, first of all, let me thank St. Pius College and Vigyan Bharati for giving me this opportunity to be there with you. I came up with a story, the story of photoelectric effect. And the main character of this story are Albert Einstein, Philip Leonard, Heinrich Hertz, and also Halbeck. Three of them got Nobel Prize, and this indicates the story is important. Most of you are from BSc and MSc level, so most of you know about the photoelectric effect. And how many of you know that Einstein got a Nobel Prize in 1921 for what work? So can you either open your mic or you can write in the chat box. Einstein Nobel Prize in 1921 was for what work? Albert Einstein is known for general theory of relativity. Yeah, Medha.
He actually got his Nobel Prize for photoelectric effects, sir.
He got a Nobel Prize for explanation of photoelectric effect. And what he
The
did
theoretical Sorry?
What he did in photoelectric effect?
He defined the photoelectric effect. I mean, he gave the theoretical aspect of it, which was then experimentally proved after.
Okay. So exactly this is for this story is meant for that. It is the other way around. The experiments were done before the explanation. So anyway, let me start with the story. I have the story with me. I have few demonstration, and if everything work well, then I promise you that you will not only listen to this story, but you will learn many things about Albert Einstein, these people, also their work, because their work is more important. So let me take you back 150 years. There was a scientist in England working very hard to establish a relationship between electricity, magnetism, and the light. And he thought that these three are manifestations of a single phenomena. The scientist was Robert James Clerk Maxwell, and he came up with four beautiful equations. These equations are known as Maxwell's equations. According to these equations, accelerating charges should produce electromagnetic waves. Maxwell died at a young age of 48 years, much before he was. Atul, can you keep your mic off, please? So Maxwell died at a young age of 48 years before these electromagnetic waves were discovered. Today, every one of us know about electromagnetic waves. Even if you ask a child, he knows that he can communicate with his parents through mobile phone by making use of electromagnetic waves. But that was not the case 150 years back. These waves took 14 years from their prediction by Maxwell to their production and detection by Heinrich Hertz. He is the scientist, Heinrich Hertz, and he designed one experiment to produce and detect the electromagnetic waves. By the way, Heinrich Hertz is the same person on whose name the unit of frequency is called Hertz. You are able to listen to me because your ears are sensitive to frequency range from 20 Hertz to 20,000 Hertz. And you are able to see me because your eyes are also sensitive to frequency range which are in some terahertz. 1 tera is 1 trillion, 10 to the power 12, a very huge number. So I have a small demonstration to show you what Heinrich Hertz did. Most of you know about this device. By the way, can someone make me on stage? I'm not. Yeah, I can pin myself. Okay. So all of you know about this device. This is a gas lighter in every home. And most of you may not be knowing that this gas lighter can produce an electrical signal of up to 1000 volt. I have used a similar gas lighter. This is a gas lighter. If you light it up, then there's a spark, and that is used for lighting the gas in your houses, in your kitchen. And what I have done is I have connected this gas lighter, taken two wires from it, one positive and other negative, and connected these two wires to these two spokes. And ends of these spokes are made very sharp. If you can see that these two spokes are separated, there's an air gap between these two, and these ends are very sharp. So if I light this lighter, I press the button, then if things goes well, then you should see a spark between these two spokes. Can you see?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can see. Why this spark is there? Actually, what happens is this 1000 volt electrical signal between these two spokes ionizes the air.
थोड़ा बैकग्राउंड में रखिए, आपका रेड शर्ट में नहीं दिखा है, एक बार कीजिए। अभी बैकड्रॉप अच्छा रहा। अभी
लेट मी ट्राई मूर्ति जी। Yes, you can. I can see, and you
Yes.
can believe me.
Yes, sir.
So, so this 1000 volt electrical signal, which is produced by this gas lighter, ionizes the air between these two spokes, and there is a movement of charges from one spoke to other spoke. So these accelerating charges produce electromagnetic waves as predicted by Maxwell. Maxwell equation says that accelerating charges produce electromagnetic waves. So these electromagnetic waves are spread throughout this room, but how to detect them? And that is also possible if you take other two spokes which are on the other end and connect a neon bulb here. This is a very small neon bulb which is found in your electricity tester. And whenever I press this lighter, then this neon bulb also glows. I can try it. This and these two spokes produce electromagnetic charges because of the accelerating charges, and these electromagnetic waves are detected by this neon bulb. Let me try, but this is very hard to see because the light is very feeble. And the same problem was there with Heinrich Hertz. He was not having, even the problem with Heinrich Hertz were more severe because he was not having a gas lighter 150 years back. There was nothing like this. He designed an electrical circuit to produce electromagnetic waves. But the problem was more severe at the detector level because these neon bulbs were not there. So what Heinrich Hertz did was he designed a very simple circuit like this. This is a metal ring, and this is copper ring, and on the ends of the ring there are two metal balls. And whenever electromagnetic waves strike this ring, then he observed a very feeble spark between these two metal balls. So this was a kind of detector designed by Heinrich Hertz. But his problem was much severe, and the severity was that this is very feeble to see. So what Heinrich Hertz did was he illuminated these metal balls with ultraviolet radiation. This is ultraviolet radiation source, and if these balls are illuminated by this, then the length of the spark increases. It means that these ultraviolet rays eject electrons from these metal balls, and these ejected electrons help in ionizing the air. And this is what photoelectric effect is. Photoelectric effect is ejection of electron when a metal surface is illuminated by high energy electromagnetic radiations like ultraviolet rays here. So this effect, photoelectric effect, was not discovered by Albert Einstein, but it was discovered by Heinrich Hertz. Heinrich Hertz, today all of us know about him, and he was having two daughters, but none of them was married. And today we don't have any descendant of Heinrich Hertz. He died at a very young age of 36 years. But his name is almost everywhere. Wherever there is a frequency, there is a unit of frequency, and his name is there. So discoverer of photoelectric effect was Heinrich Hertz. He could not do this work much further because he died at a young age of 36 years, but his colleague or his student, his assistant, Helmholtz, carried forward his work. Carried forward was another German scientist, Helmholtz. By the way, Heinrich Hertz was also German, and Maxwell was from Scotland. Helmholtz was again from Germany. And he did a more systematic study of photoelectric effect. So all of you know about the charges. And what he did is he studied the photoelectric effect by using a electroscope. Electroscope, this is a homemade electroscope which you can make at home. It has a metal rod which passes through the cap. It is a glass container. You can have plastic container too. And there are two aluminum foil at the end of the this metal rod. On the other end of the rod, there is a aluminum plate. So before that, all of you know about charges. There are two types of charges, positive and negative, and most of you have done the experiments with charges. And all of you know that if these are the small pieces of paper, and if you comb your hair, and if you put the comb very close to these papers, then the comb should be able to lift these pieces of paper. Because, by the way, can someone explain why the charged comb was able to lift the pieces of paper? You can open your mic and tell me.
Static electricity, sir.
This is static electricity, but which forces lift the paper up?
Electrostatic
force
of attraction.
Electrostatic forces. But electrostatic forces are always between charged particles. Do you think that this piece of paper is charged? These pieces?
So the comb becomes, let's say if it's positively charged, it pulls the negative charge towards itself, and there is a negative charge created at the boundaries of the paper. So there's a kind of attraction that is developed.
That is precisely because this positive charge or negative charge of the comb polarizes these papers. This is through polarization. So we should understand these small things, but let me show you something more interesting. And here is our homemade electroscope. And try to spend some time with this, because this is important to understand what Helveg did. So here is a glass rod, and if I rub this glass rod against a woolen cloth, I have woolen cloth here with me, and if I put it just above the aluminum plate, then the leaves of the electroscope should diverge. And let me just bring it close to the focus so that you can see the divergence of leaves. Can you see?
Yes, sir.
ज़्यादा नहीं है, but I think you can, yeah, now you can see that these leaves diverge. And now let us try to understand why this happens. Believe me, whenever this glass rod is rubbed against a fur, the woolen cloth, then this get positively charged. Then why these leaves diverge? Can someone explain this? I am trying to be more interactive because that will be like a dialogue. Why these leaves diverge?
Repulsive charges, sir. I mean, it brings out the repulsive charges to the surfaces facing each other.
These
So the inside surfaces of both those leaves have the same charge, so it is repulsive.
And why do you say inside surface only? Outside also will have the same charge? It's a metal.
It could be. I just mean in this situation, but since inside is supposing we are taking negative on the inside, then the outside charges will be positive. So I mean, since the inside, I mean, those are closer together. So that is what affects here instead of the ones on the outside surface.
Medha, you are partially correct. These leaves diverge because there are like charges. We know that like charges repel each other, and both the leaves are charged now. And in fact, both the surfaces will have same kind of charge. But from where these charges are coming? I'm not touching the aluminum plate, by the way.
Sir, it's something similar to what we observed in the comb and the paper. I mean, there's a charge induced on due to the charged glass rod. We have a electric charge induced on this electroscope. So,
Right. But this is not same as the pieces of paper, because in the pieces of paper, so there was a polarization. Here, this is a metal plate, and these leaves are also metal. So there is no polarization as such. But you correctly said, you said that induction, there are induced charges. Let me try to explain it. This is a positively charged plate, glass rod. When I bring this close to the aluminum plate, then what will happen to the charges here on the aluminum plate? These will be attracted by the positive charges of glass rod. So there will be excess of negative charges on the aluminum plate. And some of the negative charges will start moving upward from the aluminum foil towards the aluminum plate. So now can you tell me what is the type of charge, positive or negative, on the aluminum leaves?
positive, sir. Negative charges are moving up. So, there is positive.
Yes. Negative charges are going up, therefore the leaves are positively charged. Right? And suppose if I touch the finger, this aluminum plate with my finger, then let us see what happens. Then we will explain. What happens?
It grounds it, sir.
It grounds it, yes. So what?
The charges, I mean
Ripple.
the charges have they travel through you into the earth, that like in electrical circuits, like in switchboards at home.
And which charges will move from where? We have seen that these aluminum leaves become neutral because they converge. That is our observation. So the positive charges on the aluminum leaves was neutralized by something. And that can be only neutralized if there are electrons which are moving from my body to the aluminum leaves. Yes? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, someone trying to say something? What about the aluminum plate? Are there charges still there or not?
No, sir. I mean, the electricity it creates travels through the aluminum plate and through your body.
Yeah, from my body, electrons start moving through aluminum plate to the aluminum leaves, and leaves become neutral. That I agree. What about this plate? Initially, there was a negative charge on the aluminum plate. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Because this negative charge was bounded by the positive charges of the glass rod. And these are bounded charges. They will still be there. So if I remove the glass plate away, then what will happen? Let us try to see it. Let me repeat it again. This is important to understand. What happens? Positively charged glass rod, bring it close to the aluminum plate, leaves diverge, touching with my finger, leaf converge, leaves become neutral, and now I am removing the finger and then removing the glass rod. Leaves again diverge. And these diverge because the negative charge which was there on the aluminum plate redistribute itself, and some of the negative charge goes to the leaves. So now the electroscope is negatively charged. This is called charging by induction. And let me show you something. I have an ultraviolet lamp, and if I can show you that this produce ultraviolet rays. These rays are dangerous, so please don't expose yourself to ultraviolet rays. So I have covered it so that they don't reach my body. So let me try to show you something. Just observe the leaves. Now the lamp is off, and let me switch it on. What happens to the leaves?
They converged. I mean,
Why? Why they converge?
they became neutral, sir.
They become neutral. Yes, that I agree. But why they become neutral? This time I have not touched with anything. I'm just exposing the aluminum plate with the ultraviolet radiations.
Sir, I guess there was this photoelectric effect coming up and electrons were removed. So it was negatively charged. So now it become neutral because electrons were removed.
So this is the demonstration of photoelectric effect, which I was able to show you by using a simple electroscope and ultraviolet lamp. So what happens is these negative charges which were there in the electroscope, which we have seen in the last part, are ejected by these ultraviolet radiations. And this is called photoelectric effect. This is the work done by Halbach. So let me again show you the entire thing within a minute so that you can see the photoelectric effect happening in front of you. Rubbing the glass rod against the wool, bringing it close to the aluminum plate, leaves diverge, touching with finger, leaf converge, removing the finger, removing the glass plate, leaves are now negatively charged, electroscope is negatively charged, and if I bring a ultraviolet lamp and light it up, then the leaves converge. So this is a demonstration of photoelectric effect. This was studied by Halbach in late 19th century. But Halbach work was mostly qualitative in nature. And more quantitative work on photoelectric effect was done by Philipp Lenard. Again, he was a German scientist. He studied photoelectric effect for 3 years to study its properties. He used a sophisticated equipment, but I have a simple model of that to explain what he studied. This is a box, and the box has a metal plate on this surface. This metal plate is illuminated by ultraviolet radiations, and whenever these ultraviolet radiations hit this metal plate, they eject electrons, and these electrons start moving in this direction. Some of these electrons move slowly. They have small kinetic energy, and some of them move very fast. On the other end of the box, there is one more plate. This plate is called collector, and this plate is called emitter. Emitter because it emits the electron, and collector because it collects the electrons. So what Halbach observed is he made two very important observations. First observation was that the kinetic energy of these photoelectrons, which are ejected by emitter, depends on the frequency of light. More is the frequency of light, more is the kinetic energy. And how he know that this is more kinetic energy? And suppose this UV rays, this eject the electrons and they start moving. So what happens is, if you connect this plate with a negative potential, then this negative potential will repel these electrons. And if you keep increasing the negative value of the potential, then at some value of this potential, none of these electrons, even the fastest moving electron, can reach the collector. And that value of potential is called stopping potential. Leonard observed that the value of stopping potential depends on the frequency of light. It means that the kinetic energy of these photoelectrons depends on the frequency of light. His second observation was that if you connect this plate with a positive potential, then this plate will start attracting the electrons and there will be a flow of current in the circuit. And this current can be measured by a very sensitive equipment like ammeter. And he observed that the value of the current, saturation current, depends on the intensity of light. More is the intensity of light, more is the value of saturation current. So these two observations of Philippe Lenard, the first observation, the maximum kinetic energy of ejected photoelectrons depends on the frequency of light. And second observation, the saturation current depends on the intensity of light, were difficult to explain at that point of time. But Philippe Lenard got a Nobel Prize for having these two observations. He studied the effect for 3 years from 1899 to 1902, and he got a Nobel Prize in 1905 for this work. Although his explanation was not correct, but his predictions were well received. In the same year, 1905, Albert Einstein published a paper on the properties of light. The paper has 9 sections. This was the paper of Albert Einstein. You can see it on the internet. And this paper has 9 sections. And only in one of those 9 sections, Albert Einstein explained 2 observations made by Philippe Lenard. And his observations were based on a new picture of light. At that point of time, Maxwell wave theory was well established. The phenomena like diffraction and interference were explained by wave theory of light. Einstein theory says that light consists of a stream of photons, a stream of particles. He said these photons as light quanta. The name photon was given much later, and he explained both the observations by using this theory. The explanation was like this. It is given here. These are the light quanta which strike the electron which is there inside a metal. The electrons get the energy from the light quanta and they do some work against the binding forces of the metal, that is called work function. And they are ejected with energy, the maximum kinetic energy, which is difference of the energy of light quanta and the work function. So the maximum kinetic energy of the photoelectrons depends on the frequency of light. That was first observation of Lenard, Philippe Lenard. His second observation, that the saturation current depends on the intensity of light. If the intensity of light is more, then more number of photons strike the metal surface. And when there is more number of photons, then they will interact with more number of electrons. So more number of electrons will be ejected. Therefore, the current will be more. So both observations of Philip Lenard were successfully explained by Albert Einstein in his paper of 1905 through his particle theory of light, that is also called photon theory. But his observations were not readily, his theory was not readily accepted by physics community at that time. And in physics, you need an experiment either to prove or disprove a theory. So his observation, his theory was not accepted by physics community for almost 10 to 12 years. And Robert Millikan, who was a brilliant American experimentalist, decided to disprove Einstein theory through an experiment. His objective was to prove Einstein to be wrong. So Robert Millikan designed a marvelous experiments, and he did experiments for almost 8 to 10 years. And through these experiments, instead of disproving Einstein to be wrong, he proved Einstein to be correct because his experimental results were in total agreement with what Einstein predicted. So Robert Millikan got a Nobel Prize in 1923. 2 years later, that is from 1921, Albert Einstein got a Nobel Prize for his work on photoelectric effect. And 2 years after that, Nobel Prize was also given to Robert Millikan for his experimental work. So with that, light shows different character in different experiments. In experiments like photoelectric effect, light shows its photon picture, its particle nature. In experiments like diffraction and interference, light shows its wave nature. It is very difficult to comprehend because particle is something that is confined in space, but wave is something that is spread throughout the space. How can something have both the character? But this is how nature is. Albert Einstein established the particle theory of light, and Maxwell gave a very strong foundation of wave theory of light. It was the Heinrich Hertz experiment that not only proved Maxwell theory to be correct, but he also opened the door for Einstein to propose particle theory. So it reminds me of Tulsidas ji, who in Ramcharitmanas said that "Jaki rahi bhavna jaisi, Prabhu Murat dekhi tin taisi." So lights behave differently in different experiments. It looks different to different observers. So now with this, I end the story. If you have any questions, then we can discuss for some time. The story was short, but I tried to make it slightly interesting.
Good evening, everybody. I am Rini Francina. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful lecture. Does anyone have any questions? You can either raise your hand or put it in chat box. Or if anyone has any doubt, you can just unmute your mic and you can ask, sir.
Yeah, that will be much better.
Yes, sir.
Sir, what is the further research in this area now to get Nobel Prize? Same fourth Nobel Prize to get. What is the direction you give?
So Nobel Prize तो बहुत मुश्किल में मिलता है. That is based on original work. But after that, not only these three got a Nobel Prize for photoelectric effect, but all of you are in MSc and BSc, so you know about the Compton effect. Compton also got a Nobel Prize for the similar work. He also proved the particle nature of light.
The particle means only electrons? any particle. There can be anything.
Particle is something that is confined in space and has a momentum and energy. So electron is a particle, proton is a particle, and photon is also considered as particle.
There can be different effect of different particles. Light consists of all these particles, or particle only this one only, electrons only. What is they proved actually? Only electrons?
Sorry.
All light consists of particles and wave, right? So all these particles will be there in light, or only electrons will be there in light?
Light does not have electrons. Light has photons, and light shows different properties in different experiments. Some of the experiments, like interference and diffraction, can be explained through the wave nature of light. And the experiments like photoelectric effect or Compton effect can be explained only through the particle nature of light. So the light has, in fact, everything has both the nature. Even myself has both the wave as well as particle nature. But only thing is that the wave for the large particles you cannot see because the wavelength is too small to observe.
Sir, supposing, I mean, do other elementary particles also, do electrons and such also have such effect? Do they also experience photoelectric effect?
Electrons experience photoelectric effect. Okay, Mira, can you just elaborate on the question?
I'm asking, sir, supposing we have electrons or any other such particles, would they also, I mean, is it possible that they also exhibit photoelectric effect? Can we do that?
Photoelectric effect is special kind of effect where the
radiations, exclusive to light,
where the radiations emit the electrons.
Yes.
From the metal surface. So that is called photoelectric effect.
So is there any equivalent to the others?
Equivalent means suppose you illuminate the metal plate with a beam of electrons, then they will also emit the electrons.
Yeah, okay.
But that will not be called photoelectric effect because photo means photons and electric means that electrons are ejected.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, when we did this experiment to prove that a photoelectric effect, like we first took a glass rod and charged it with a woolen cloth, and then when we touched it with a hand, the leaves basically converged, right? And then when we removed our hand and consequently removed the glass rod, they diverged again. So that part, why did it happen so, sir? Once, can you just explain it?
Can you repeat, ma'am, last sentence?
So when the glass rod was removed, you said that the negative charges got redistributed, and then that's the reason they kind of converged. Diverged again.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, but what I didn't understand, sir, is when we touched it with the hand, didn't the charges basically get redistributed and neutralize the leaves?
Okay. So let me try to explain it once more. Ma'am, what happens is, ये दिख रहा है ना? इसमें क्या हो रहा है? This is a good question because we should understand the things. When this glass rod was positively charged by rubbing with woolen cloth, then it has positive charge and there are electrons in the metal. So what happens is the electrons in here, there is an excess of electrons on the metal plate. And these electrons are bounded by the positive charges of the glass rod. They cannot move.
Okay, yes, sir.
They cannot move. So these electrons which were there, because I have not removed this, when I touched it, then the leaves converge, they become neutral, but still there are excess of electrons on the metal plate. And when I remove the glass plate, then there is nothing to attract these electrons. Therefore, they will redistribute themselves. Is it
Okay,
clear?
so when we touched with the hand, the electrons which were bounded were still there, no, sir? They didn't
Yes, sir.
go. Oh, okay.
Right.
Only the
Sir,
excess charge in the plates got, got kind of neutralized, but the bounded charges were still there, right, sir?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, understood. Thank you, sir.
Right.
sir, do you still have anything to explain, sir? Will you continue the lecture?
नहीं मैम और तो कुछ नहीं है मेरे पास. If you have any questions, then you can ask. I have only one thing to tell you, that this UV lamp you can make at your home. These UV lamps has a tube here, and which is also there in your water purifiers. Water purifier में भी एक UV lamp रहता है. So I have taken this tube from there, and there is a chalk. So you can make these lamps at home. And also you can make these electroscopes. These are very easy to make. So my suggestion is, if some of you can try making these electroscope and do the experiments yourself, then you will better understand this. My objective here was to show you that this can be done. That's all. And there is a small announcement at the last, because Professor S.C. Verma is having an online free course which was started on 15th. You can register on his website bsc.hcverma.in, and this is a 12-hour course on the story of photoelectric effect. So I strongly recommend that you please attend this course. This is free online course. I am putting the link in the in the chat box.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I hand over the session to my friend Asta.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yeah, Bhavanji. Yes, Sai Bhavanji, please.
Yes, sir. Which metal is best for photoelectric effect, sir?
Which metal is
Best for photoelectric effect.
best for photoelectric effect? Okay. So, so what do you think that, I will come to your answer. What do you think is the energy level of these ultraviolet radiations? These are few electron volts, 3 to 4 electron volts. These ultraviolet radiations, the photon energy is of the order of few electron volts. And these metals also has a work function of that order, 3 to 4 electron volts. I have used an aluminum plate. Zinc is also a good metal. And even those alkali metals like cesium and sodium, they are also good, because they will eject electrons even at 1 or 2 electron volts. But these metals are very reactive. So you have to use vacuum for seeing the photoelectric effect on those metals. And that is the reason why Robert Millikan took 8 years in designing very sophisticated experiments to study the photoelectric effect from those metals, alkali metals, cesium and all. So cesium is good, 1 or 2 electron volt. Aluminium around 4.5 electron volt. Zinc is also good.
Sir, with ordinary light?
Ordinary light में तो उसके एनर्जी लेवल you can just compute. This is very small. उसमें तो शायद मेटल से इजेक्ट नहीं होगा. I don't think, because the ordinary light will have less than 1 electron volt energy.
Thank you, sir.
But you can have a literature search.
Sir, actually, the photo electrons, the stopping potential depends on only on the, the nature of the cathode material, or also on the frequency of incident light.
It depends on the nature of the metal. The stopping potential is the property of the metal. Right, Meenakshi?
Yes, sir.
So it does not depend on the frequency of the radiation.
Okay, okay, sir.
Does anyone still have doubts or any questions? Thank you, everybody. Over to you, Asta.
Hello, good evening everyone. I am Asta Suryapani. I would like to invite the head of department, Dr. R. Komala ma'am, to release the poster.
Thank you, Asta. Good evening, everybody. This year, for the academic year 21 and 22, Department of Physics is organizing an intercollegiate competition on poster making. This year, we would also like to invite school students to participate in this poster making competition, just to encourage students to understand the concepts and put them in the form of a poster, which should be more which they should make it more innovative, in an innovative way and in an interesting way. So for more details, Asta will be sharing.
Thank you, ma'am. As ma'am mentioned, we are organizing poster making competition from 19th to 26th of July. The posters are to be made on the basic concept of physics. They are to be on the theories of magnetism and matter, electricity, optics, mechanics, collisions, and so on. The objective is to showcase innovative ideas on concepts of physics. This competition is open to all students from high school to PG. We would like to make sure that you follow the rules as per the flyer. They are: the team must consist of only 2 members and each team must submit only a single poster. Students who are eligible must submit their entries in PDF format only. The entries must be submitted to the email ID mentioned in the poster. The design must be original. The poster must be in A4 size but can also be in portrait or landscape orientation. Do not overload your poster with information. Also, we are sharing the link for registration and submission of the poster in the chat box. Remember, we are taking entries until the 26th of July. Winners will be awarded with medals and certificates. I would like to now hand the session over to Dr. R. Komala ma'am for vote of thanks.
Thank you, Asta. I thank GLN Murthy sir for associating with us in organizing a wonderful webinar with Jitendra sir as resource person. We are very, very thankful to you, sir. Jitendra sir, your session was very interesting and informative. I never heard our students asking so many doubts. It only shows that they paid full attention to your webinar. Thank you very much, sir. And we would like to have many more sessions with you in future. Thank you, sir. And I thank one and all whoever has supported in organizing this webinar. Now I request participants to switch on their cameras for a group pic. Participants, please switch on your cameras for a group pic. Sir, Murthy sir. Please switch on your cameras for group pic. Rini, Medha, are you taking pics, ma? Group pics. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful session.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां we meet soon. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir.